This is breaking news from the Las Vegas Review-Journal, sponsored by Las Vegas Paiute Tribal Smoke and Cigar Shop.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jen Ah with the Las Vegas Review-Journal. We're getting ready to take you to a live press conference with the Clark County School Superintendent Jesus Jara and other school board members. We're waiting for that news conference to begin, but first we'll be giving you a brief update here on what we've learned so far. So they're expected to provide an update on the effort to reopen our local schools, most likely for the older students. Now, many parents are eager to have their children back into the classrooms for the first time in almost a year. Since March 15th of last year, that's when Governor Steve Ccsd ordered schools across the state to close due to the COVID-19 pandemic. In recent days, Jara is hinting that the new guidelines the governor handed down last week could lead to more students returning to the classroom this school year. Of course, the youngest students, those in pre-K through the third grade, are already set to return next week under a hybrid model, where some students will be in class Mondays and Tuesdays, and others will be in class Thursdays and Fridays. However, so far, there has been no word about a timeline for older students going back to school. During a Q&A session on Monday, Jara did say plans for the next school year could be announced in April or May. As of this year, he says a plan has been in the works since the governor announced new guidelines last week. However, that plan needs to be finalized and shared with the school board before it can be announced. Jara has acknowledged the toll the school closures have taken, as well as staff. At least 20 students have taken their lives since March. Back in January, Jara pointed out that some of the steps CCSD has taken to address mental health include repurposing district police departments to conduct home wellness checks. Earlier this week, we also reported that schools are prepping for the younger students to return to the classroom. They've been marking the floors in the buildings to make sure all the students follow the social distancing guidelines. That's so important. And stocking up on hand sanitizers and also masks. Of course, students are required to bring masks to school, but they can't forget that's definitely a high possibility. And so the schools really want to make sure these students, when they do return, they return safely. Now, I think this is really exciting news for a lot of students. We've heard that some students don't mind remote learning from home. However, there are others who really miss the social aspect of returning to school, interacting with their teachers, fellow students, and their friends. And so for them, this is really exciting news. As we mentioned before, this has really taken a toll for some students. At least 20 lives, possibly more, have been lost since March. So we're going to be waiting to hear from the Clark County School Superintendent Jesus Jara and other board members. And so this is really, again, exciting news for everyone. You know, some students don't mind, but others are really excited to get back into the classrooms, especially the older students. So we're going to be seeing what the school leaders have to say about these older students returning to school. Now, we're going to be hearing again from the Clark County School Superintendent Jesus Jara and the school board members. As we've told you earlier, many parents are eager to have their children back into the classrooms. Governor Steve Ccsd last week ordered these guidelines for schools to reopen. And so in recent days, the school superintendent is hinting that there are going to be new guidelines set for the schools, that they're going to be reopening slowly. Some of the announcements may be coming in the coming months in April or May. And earlier during a Q&A session, he talked about the importance of reopening these schools and how that is a priority for the school district. Now, of course, the younger students, pre-K through third grade, are expected to return to school next week. And they'll be following a hybrid model where they will still be learning from home remotely part-time, but then also going to school other times. So the plan right now is that some of the students will be returning to school Monday and Tuesday, and then others will be returning to school on Thursdays and Fridays, sort of like a half and half deal there. And so we're wondering, and we're going to see if that's the case for the older students, if they're also going to be following this hybrid model. Jara has announced the toll the school closures have taken on these students as well as staff. They've reported that there have been at least 20 students who have taken their lives since March because of the mental toll. And so they've ordered the police department to conduct these wellness checks to make sure that the students are mentally sound, that they're in a healthy environment mentally, that they're not suffering from depression or anxiety because of the pandemic, because they don't want more students' lives lost because of this isolation. It looks like right now they're getting ready for this presser to start. It is being delayed a little bit. It was expected to start at 1 p.m. this afternoon, but they're still sort of working out the kinks. It looks like they're going to be getting started here very shortly, though. Okay, so it looks like it's just about to start. We'll take you there right now.
Board of School Trustees President Linda Cavazos.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being here today at Dean Peterson Elementary School. We want to thank Principal Melissa Gutierrez for hosting us today. Also, thank you to all of our Employee Association presidents, executive directors who have joined us here today. Since last March, our school communities, including every student, parent, guardian, teacher, support professional, and community member, has had safety on their minds. Physical safety from COVID-19 and mental and emotional safety from the accompanying stress and anxiety. We have suffered losses of life, academic setbacks for some, and worked our way through a complex web of adjustment and uncertainty that stretched from our littlest pre-K student to our 2020 and 2021 seniors, who have had one of their most important school years in their lives irrevocably change, from being isolated from their friends, losing the chance to play sports, to some of our students having to get jobs to help support their families, and some students also suffering the loss of family members to COVID, especially in our communities of color, who have been hit very hard by this virus. Throughout all this, our teachers, our administrators, our support professionals, our district staff, our superintendent have kept our schools open. Only our buildings were closed. Safety was the #1 priority. As we move forward with the huge challenges that face us as we return both students and employees to the physical classrooms with the choice to continue distance learning, know that we will not back down from keeping our priorities straight, and that is to keep every student and employee safe. By working collaboratively toward that goal, we are excited to provide the best possible education from pre-12 to 12. They are all our kids, they are all our employees, and they all deserve the best. Thank you, and I'd now like to welcome our Superintendent of CCSD, Dr. Jesus F. Jara. Superintendent.
Thank you, Trustee Cavazos. Good afternoon. Thank you for being here. I'm going to remove my mask just because I got some other high school principals that I continue to advertise for one high school, but all our schools are important. Thank you to the Board of Trustees, some of them who are here this afternoon. The other ones have other commitments and they're doing some great things. So as you can see from those that are behind me, I am so proud that I stand with all our bargaining partners who are here, from Mr. Derek Bello, President of CSD, and Executive Director Steve Osberger, CCEA President Marie Neese, ESEA President Jan Giles, Captain Young from the Police Administrators Union, and Officer Caldwell, who is also here, representing our 42,000 employees. And I'm telling you, before I get started, I couldn't be more proud of the 42,000 employees that I have the honor to serve as their superintendent. Because what has occurred in this past year is close to a miracle. Because turning over the 5th largest district in the country upside down in distance education to providing our children, all 310,000 in education, has been a remarkable effort by every single one, from our principals, our teachers, our support professionals. And I can't say enough about our support professionals, because we've served close to 11 million meals from the first day that we closed our schools. As I've stated for many months, I wanted our schools open. but we needed to do it safely because I know how important to our community our kids being in school on every single day, to our staff, to our parents. The governor's easing of the restrictions last week helped speed up the process for us. Our team immediately went to work to look to see what that meant for our children. And I'm going to provide with a timeline. But before I start on the timeline, I also want you to know that, as Trustee Cavazos mentioned, not only were we running a school district through distance ed, we were also planning on reopening our schools. That's why we immediately, when we could, announced that on Monday, our pre-K through grade 3, our students will be coming in on a hybrid model. As I talked to some of the elementary school principals, as I visited, our teachers are so excited, our staff is so excited to welcome our babies to a face-to-face instruction under a hybrid instructional model. On March 22nd, grade 6, grade 9, and grade 12 will be coming back to school under a hybrid instructional model. April 6th, grade 7, 8th, 10th, and 11th will return to school under a hybrid model. April 6th, all pre-K through grades 5 will come to school 5 days a week. Parents, please know that we will continue to offer full-time distance education to our families who feel more comfortable keeping their children at school. So let me talk about some of the other improvements, actually expansions and things we're going to continue to do. Many of our families have a lot of questions about athletics and extracurricular activities. Our athletic department, who are here with us, have been working with NIAA and the governor's office. At this time, we will continue and we will start to offer spring sports that will start April 3rd. These are the same kids that last year missed their spring season. Games and meets will begin April 16. The sports include track, boys and girls, swimming, boys and girls, diving, baseball, softball, boys golf, and boys volleyball. We also, working with our athletics department, plan to offer schools the opportunity to offer intramural athletics for the fall season. Those sports include football, tennis, boys and girls, soccer, boys and girls, cross country, boys and girls volleyball. There will be 2 different windows, April 5th and May 1st. Football only, full contact. The earlier window is needed for yearly helmet and pad reconditioning of helmets and our shoulder pads. Again, to get them ready in time for the fall of 2021. Football will have 20 practice competition during this window, culminating with an inter-squad game lasting at least 1 hour. This gives our student athletes, focus on the word student athletes, an opportunity to showcase their talents, our coaches to be able to record their videos for college recruiting. It will be similar to a spring game within their own school. May 3rd through 22nd, all other fall sports, staggered against to give our children an opportunity to play and not have to choose between a single sport. No spectators will be allowed at any CCSD athletic event. School clubs will also resume with in-person learning. We will follow all safety precautions following CCSD's, the state, CDC guidelines, and the NIAA. All coaches and adults associated with the team will have to have a negative test for COVID before activities begin. What is happening now? Since Moapa Valley High School currently practicing since they've been in person, and Virgin Valley High School, who will transition to in-person March 8th, will start practicing March 1st, must have 10 days of practice before the start of the competition. Our students who participate in the performing arts, students will be able to engage in live learning and traditional rehearsals. Safety protocols will be implemented to ensure the safest possible return to face-to-face instruction. Similar to athletics, students will be permitted to engage in outside of class activities, rehearsals like marching band, drill team, and theater. To ensure continued safety of our community, our performing arts will have the option to engage in streaming of their concerts for the immediate future. Reopening of schools, folks, bringing back staff and students, and continuing distance education models requires a lot of logistics and consideration. On top of that, safety of our employees and of our students. Something that we need to remind this community. We have 1,700 bus routes. 1,700 bus routes with restrictions. So we have been planning. Our staff has been doing an amazing job of getting this community and our children back to school. I am proud of the work that our team has put together, working with our trustees to bring in our students back to school safely. All CCSD employees will return to their work sites no later than March 15th. All of this information will be posted on our website under our Reconnect. Our parents and our community has already received an email. So let me transition a little bit before we turn it over to questions for our families in Spanish. Para las familias que hablan español, hemos trabajado con la Junta Escolar para poder abrir las escuelas. El 1 de marzo, el lunes que vienen los niños de pre-kinder a tercer grado en el plan de hybrid. El 22 de marzo, los estudiantes de sexto grado, de noveno grado y 12 grado van a empezar la escuela en el hybrid, en el modelo de hybrid. El 6 de abril vienen los de séptimo, de octavo, de décimo y de 11 en el plan de hybrid. Y el 6 de abril vienen todos los niños de pre-kinder hasta quinto grado, 5 días a la semana en las escuelas. Muchas gracias. And now I'll open it up to questions, and you can have anybody here from all our bargaining partners, also our chief negotiator and our deputy are here. You can ask any questions, or I'll turn it over for you to ask any questions of this great team. To the community, our parents, thank you for your advocacy. I continue to keep you and hope to keep you engaged as we focus on our academic achievement as well as our athletic and our performing arts. So thank you very much.
Schools have to submit plans for small groups. What's going to happen with those? Are they just going to be pushed to the side now since we are going to be bringing back all these grade levels?
So thank you for the question. So the board approved the small groups, and I think when we look at some of these plans, as we continue to start bringing more kids in, this was part of the switch, if you will. I don't want to say bait and switch, but it's really, we have so many bus routes and we have to prioritize getting our students into school. And this was part of the transition that we work with our building principals to make sure that our students were in school. And this is, we decided to go with the 6th grade, the 9th grade, and the 12th grades most immediate at this time.
Yeah, how did you decide which grade levels would come back first?
So when we looked at our kids, so you look at our 6th graders that have not been in a school in their middle schools all year, and our high school 9th graders as well. It was an opportunity for us to get our kids in for a week to transition into our middle schools and high schools before our upperclassmen showed up.
And what do you say to families who think this is all about money, getting students back in for testing?
That's couldn't be the furthest thing from the truth. Listen to me. I'm going to tell you, this is something that we have been agonizing for a long time to get our kids in front of our teachers. I tell you, our staff has been finding ways to get this done. They care. They want to see. There's nothing like replacing the face-to-face interaction with our children, and I think it has nothing to do with money. As a matter of fact, I was on the phone with the state superintendent in meetings today at 7:30. This is really about getting our kids in school and getting our kids active. I know that they've suffered enough. Our staff has suffered enough, and it's the furthest thing from the truth.
And lastly, is there an MOA with all of the unions, and when do you plan to present that to the Board of Trustees?
My chief negotiator can answer that question.
The MOAs are currently being drafted and reviewed. The MOAs are being drafted and basically proofread at this point. I believe that if not, the presidents or the unions themselves by vote are currently approving them all, and they're been explained to the board, and then the physical document should be to them within the next 24 to 30 hours. Oh, sorry. Vakisha Miller.
Dr. Jara, with the return to full-time instruction for pre-K for grade 5, how does this fit in line with the governor's directive that says they can only have up to 75% capacity in the classroom, and after they've been in session with some form of in-person learning for 20 days?
So as our kids return to school March 1st, next Monday, it fits right into the timeline. That's why they're coming in April 6th for that 5 days instruction.
But on April 6th, will the classrooms be at 100% capacity? Will they be at 75% capacity? How are you going to approach it?
Let me turn it over to my deputy superintendent.
Hello, Brenda Larson Mitchell. So the governor's directive indicated that schools had to be in session for 20 days of in-person, face-to-face instruction, and then we could move to the 75% capacity. One of the things that we are reviewing currently is that 3 feet versus 6 feet social distancing. When you look at the 6 feet social distancing with 50% capacity, it doesn't provide you with much more. But with that 75% capacity, we will have the ability to bring in more children, but also considering that 3 feet to 6 feet for safety and health precautions.
Do you plan on bringing back the secondary school level full-time for 5 days a week after April 6th as well, or at some point before the end of the school year?
Well, we got to look at where we are. Our safety, our mitigation strategies, our partnership with the state. We have to go through the contact tracing, and hopefully, that would be a goal, as long as we're safe.
So right now, families of secondary school students should expect hybrid through the end of the year, but no expectation for full-time in-person.
Right now, Kristen, is we're looking at to see how this works out, and this is the immediate plan at this point. Certainly looking at it, potentially for the end of the year, but.
Dr. Jara, what can you say about graduation ceremony and then planning for fall 2021?
Yeah, no, Jackie, that's a great question. Our team has been working and trying to get ahead and being proactive. I know we sent communications for schools to do their graduations and plan to do that before the governor's restrictions. So now we're going back to see what the potential would be about some of our graduations, and more to come after we get our schools open.
Do you have a rough estimate of how many students will stick to the full-time distance learning education model?
Thank you. So currently we have about 60% and 40%. So we are looking at 40% of our pre-K through 3 engaging in full-time distance education, and also for our secondary students it is about 40% as well, full-time distance education.
Will there be a survey going out to the secondary school families asking whether they want distance or hybrid learning?
No, we're going to use the data we had from the last survey for our secondary schools. Our principals, I have the full faith that our principals will be able to accommodate our children, those who want to move back and make some decisions. We have to, I said it earlier, we were distance education, now we're transitioning. We're still running a school district distance ed, so our principals will be able to do that. We have meetings scheduled for Friday to start working on the details of this plan.
Doctor Jara, le quería preguntar, algunos padres quizás van a estar un poco en expectativa sin enviar los menores el 1 de marzo para que vengan aquí. ¿Cómo ustedes en efecto van a estar seguros de que estos menores no se contagien de COVID-19? Y también le quería preguntar si los maestros ya se han vacunado, los empleados de aquí se han vacunado contra el COVID-19 en la COVID.
Ahora lo que nosotros estamos... Para los padres les digo que una de las cosas más importantes para nosotros es la salud de los empleados y los estudiantes. Nosotros hemos trabajado, los directores han trabajado mucho para tener las escuelas limpias, separarlos los 6 pies y vamos a seguir trabajando con eso, el contact tracing, esas son cosas que nosotros tenemos, el partnership con el Departamento de Salud y con la oficina del gobernador. Los planes están muy bien preparados para los padres, así que estén seguros. Y las vacunas, nosotros tenemos como 15,000, 16,000 de los empleados que ya se han vacunado.
Y también le quería preguntar, uno de los asuntos que también impulsa, entiendo yo, a usted hacer toda esta transición a que vengan los niños a la escuela es la poca atención que quizás retención que algunos niños tengan y también la alta cantidad de suicidios. Si más o menos puede actualizar cuántos menores pues lamentablemente están suicidados y cuán importantes son esos dos asuntos para ustedes.
Para la salud mental de los estudiantes es una cosa que es muy importante para todos, para los estudiantes y los adultos. Eso es algo que nosotros estamos preparados para ayudarlos. De los suicidios no los tengo ahora en este momento para darte los datos, pero llama a Mauricio y te los da.
Y en cuanto a la atención, que algunos, por ejemplo, hemos visto que algunos menores y quizás niños con discapacidad para aprender están teniendo muchos retos a hacer la educación a distancia. ¿Cómo ustedes se están asegurando de que esto, especialmente los niños de educación especial, puedan tener una educación práctica y presencial?
Sí, las escuelas están ahora, desde que empezamos con un programa de Lifeline para ayudar a los estudiantes, para la salud, para traerlos a la escuela con los profesores. Y esos son los directores que están trabajando con los maestros, porque la académica es algo que nosotros sabemos que hemos sufrido mucho. Entonces por eso fue tan lo importante para nosotros traer a los estudiantes a la escuela.
Y por último, quería preguntarle, se han visto muchas protestas, especialmente frente al distrito escolar del condado, en particular padres que quieren que vuelvan a hacerse todas estas actividades pues físicas y otros pues no quieren que vengan acá los menores. ¿Qué le puede decir a esos dos grupos? Los que no quieren que regresen presencialmente.
So you just heard from the Clark County School Superintendent Jesus Jara. He's taking questions from the media right now, speaking in Spanish, and he says they're making this a top priority right now, getting students back into the classroom. The superintendent says he wants students to return, but at the same time, it's so important to do it safely. He says the district is speeding up this process since the governor's announcement last week on those guidelines to reopen schools. Now, he announced that on March 22nd, grades 6 through 9 are allowed to return with a hybrid model similar to what's in place for the younger students. Then, on April 6th, grades 8th, 10th, and 11th will also be coming back with that hybrid model. On April 6th, this is also big news. Students from pre-K through 5 can return full-time, 5 days a week, from Monday through Friday as usual. Now, it looks like the superintendent is speaking in English now, taking those media questions, so we'll turn it back to him.
Our teachers, they've been preparing our kids to come to school face to face. They're so excited. I've been in schools, and they've been planning for this day. And I think I have the full confidence of our employees to get our kids ready.
So many petitions have been online. We've seen protests for months from parents. How big of a factor was parental, some groups of advocacy towards getting these students back in the classroom?
This is what I love about this community and their engagement in advocating for kids. I welcome that, and I want them to continue to advocate about academics just as they have for athletics. And that's one of the things that I'm excited about. I want to engage them as we continue to work together to get our kids, because I'm going to say this, our kids, our staff, at least I feel energized that there's a lot of support from our community. So I welcome to stay engaged with us as we bring our kids back, because our kids are going to need this entire community to wrap their arms around them, to get them to succeed academically, just as they're going to succeed athletically, and just as they're going to succeed in their performing arts. It's not one thing, and I'm so excited that they're engaged.
Dr. What's going to be done about preparations for PPE? As much as the challenge is going to be for CCSD, parents are going to have to, parents always have access to PPE. Is there going to be an increased supply? What is being done about what these supply parents do as the demand?
That's part of the planning that we've had. The PPEs are ready. We've had them purchased. Now, we started rolling them out to school for our pre-K3. So that's something that it's been funded. The team has been working with the governor's task force to make sure that we have enough PPEs for our staff and our students.
Is there a stockpile that you are satisfied with, or is that continuing project?
Well, we have enough, and again, in the close conversations with the governor's office, they have opened their office for us on a 24/7, whatever we need. And it's not just PPE, it's contact tracing, is COVID-19. Look, the vaccinations for our staff, they prioritize our educators, and I'm proud of the work that they have done on behalf of our kids.
How important was it to give spring sports athletes a chance to play their season after they had their season canceled last year?
Well, that's one of the things that when our athletic department, when we were looking at, these are kids that missed out last year, and it was one of the things that we were concerned about, missing 2 years of athletics and competition. And one of the things that, I get as a former coach, I get how important athletics is. And I think it was one of the factors that we were looking to bring our student athletes in. But then I also look at, as we're planning for those kids that missed the fall this past season, that's in the middle, for the other students in Northern Nevada, we're giving our kids a unique opportunity under NIAA rules for our kids to be able to at least have some contact to get ready for fall 2021.
Dr. Durant, at the start of the next school year, do you anticipate school will be back to what it was?
Well, before the pandemic, I can't predict that, but I'm going to tell you this is one of the things that as we continue to open safely, slowly, carefully, is not to go backwards. It's to go forward. Whether we come to 5 days a week in our secondary schools, I can't answer that. It all depends on the mitigation strategies that I know that we have great ones in place. My goal is that we're in face-to-face instruction when we open school next year.
Dr. Zara, did I hear you say 15,000 to 16,000 of your employees have been vaccinated? If so, can you give us a breakdown? How many of those are teachers?
I don't have that in my head, but we can get that information to whoever wants it. Melinda will get that, and that's through the UNLV pod. We have, I think, a larger number through Southern Nevada Health District, and we can look and try, and that's something, that's a data point we're trying to get.
Dr. Howard, what actions have you taken to support student mental health for students? I heard from a school yesterday that only has one counselor and no social worker for 7 kids. Teachers have not gotten any new training.
So what I can tell you is that this is one of the reasons, and I'm proud of the work that the School Board of Trustees have done in approving Panorama, which is a universal screener that has gone to all schools. We started with 12 schools and a pilot for Lifeline, and that has expanded to 68. Our schools have really provided some support for our students. As far as the counselor to student ratio, look, and I know Trustee Cavazos and the board has had many discussions around this. We need more support. That's nothing that I'm going to shy away from. The board also approved in an MOA with our teachers, CCEA, to increase the pay for psychologists. That has been done, and we've had conversations with the federal delegation. This is not, given our economy, given where we are with the state, this has got to be a federal investment for our families and for our kids.
Last question. Can you clarify on staggering sports to avoid forcing students to play a single sport? How is that?
Is my athletic directors who have more expertise, Ms. Sloan?
Thank you, Tim Jackson. What was the question again?
You said stagger to avoid forcing students to choose a single sport. What is that? Can you clarify that a little bit?
Absolutely.
Also, was basketball and wrestling considered to have sports and things?
The staggered question is very good. The spring sports start April 3rd, officially through NIAA. Staggering them allows students to then go out, try out, commit to a sport in the spring without having the conflict of an intramural program run at the exact same time where they may feel the pressure to choose one or the other. We follow statistics. Statistics say students that participate in multiple sports are more successful. We've created a viable option for kids to do 2 sports at the exact same time under the NIAA guidelines. Second question was?
Was there any consideration to go to basketball and wrestling in a real window as well?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things we looked at was availability of club activities to our students. Football doesn't have club activities the same way basketball does. I'm not discounting basketball, but the kids had a lot more opportunity. There was no way we could offer all 22 varsity sports in one window. So what we did was we addressed what was coming up next, which was fall of 2021. An intramural season is a part of that preparation every season. So the winter sports will not miss out on an intramural. Theirs will occur as it has traditionally occurred in October into November. It's just been calendarized now for football in an attempt to give those kids that opportunity which they've never had.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Dr. Johnson, you have a question? You've got to head out.
Okay, so we're just coming out of the news conference held by the Clark County School District, and you just heard from the superintendent, Jesus Jara. He says they're making this a top priority right now, getting students back into the classroom. The superintendent says he wants students to return, but it is so important to do so safely. He says he doesn't want to go backwards. He says since the governor's announcement last week, the district has been speeding up this comeback process, and on March 22nd, grades 6 and 9 are allowed to return to the classroom with a hybrid model similar to what's in place for the younger students. Then on April 6th, grades 8th, 10th, and 11th will also be allowed to come back with the hybrid model. On April 6th, this is also big news, students from pre-K through 5 can return full-time 5 days a week. We're talking Monday through Friday as usual. Now, there are families out there who feel more comfortable keeping their kids at home. They don't want to put their kids at risk at all, and that is still an option, he says, to have remote learning for some of the students. Many people are also wondering about youth sports and other extracurricular activities. Jara says the district will start to offer spring sports on April 3rd. Games and meets can begin on April 16th. And then the return of intramural sports for the fall season, that's also coming up as well. There are 2 comeback dates, April 5th and May 1st, he says, for football, full contact. That way that the students and those athletes are getting ready in time for the fall season. However, there are no spectators allowed at these events, so everything will be happening through streaming. And students and staff are urged to follow precautions and guidelines. The coaches and staff also have to test negative during these COVID tests in order to participate in all these events. And then it's sort of the same deal for students in performing arts. Traditional rehearsals are allowed, similar to athletics, like marching band and theater. However, they will be streaming the concerts for the immediate future. Now, Jara says he's so proud of the teamwork it took to get these students back into the classroom, and they're very excited about all these great changes that they're bringing to their school district. And so we'll continue to follow the story for you. You can stay tuned on lvrj.com, our website. We'll also have updates for you this evening on our newscast, 7 p.m. tonight. I'm Jen Ah. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We'll see you at 7.
You've been watching breaking news from the Las Vegas Review-Journal, sponsored by Las Vegas Paiute Tribal Smoke and Cigar Shop.